Coming from the old quarry works at Cutfield in West Sussex was a block containing the remains of the first armoured dinosaur, Hylaeosaurus. The discovery of Hylaeosaurus had an explosive beginning, literally. It was found after workmen at the quarry had set off a gunpowder charge in 1832. The block was quickly acquired by a man whose name should be familiar by now, Dr. Guinea Mantell, and he quickly set to work examining the find. In 1833, he released the description of an armoured reptile that he'd called Hylaeosaurus, the forest lizard. So what was in the find? The block contained traces of the back of the skull, 10 vertebrae, both scapulae and coracoids, and several spikes and armoured scutes from the dinosaur. And it was an associate of Mantell, a man called William Clift, who suggested that the spikes were part of some form of body armour that covered the animal. Mantell himself was quite excited with the find, as previous large reptile finds, such as Megalosaurus and Iguanodon, were known from single pieces or fragmentary bones, whereas Hylaeosaurus turned out to be a substantial block with a considerable amount of material from the animal. And in fact, at the time of its discovery, Hylaeosaurus was the most complete non-avian dinosaur find. That leads me nicely onto my next topic, Dinosauria. The name Dinosauria hadn't been invented yet when Hylaeosaurus was found, and these animals were referred to as giant lizards, or saurians, and it was Richard Owen in a study in 1841-42 who recognised these animals as being a distinct group separate from other reptiles, and he finally gave them their name Dinosauria, the fearfully great lizards, in reference to their size and stature. In his description and justification for this group, he used the remains of 3 animals: Megalosaurus, Iguanodon, and Hylaeosaurus. The armoured spikes really set Hylaeosaurus apart, as no other armoured dinosaurs had been found up to that point, and they even made it onto the sculpture of Hylaeosaurus that was made for the Crystal Palace exhibition. To be honest, I'm not going to lie, I do genuinely love this sculpture, despite its inaccuracies, and one of those inaccuracies being that the spikes were placed running down the spine of the animal, when in reality we know that the spines went down the side of the neck and the flank. On a separate historical note, it appears that Hylaeosaurus was never used as a wasteback taxon, which is unusual, as a lot of the early dinosaur finds were used as wasteback taxon, so later material was often referred to these early finds, and it took decades or even well into the 20th, 21st century to clear up some of these early mistakes made by earlier paleontologists. Other specimens of Hylaeosaurus have been found in Bolney in West Sussex, and also from the Isle of Wight. Now, despite this, very little can be determined about Hylaeosaurus. The armour and spikes show that it was part of a group of dinosaurs called the Ankylosauria, more specifically the Nodosauridae, and from what we found, it appears to resemble much better known animals such as Polacanthus and Gastonia. Size estimates would place Hylaeosaurus at around about 6 metres in length. It lived during the Valangian stage of the early Cretaceous period, around 134 to 137 million years ago, at a time when Europe was a series of islands at the northwestern end of the Tethys Ocean. And thus ends the tale of Hylaeosaurus armatus, the third dinosaur.